I have all my test missions in a completely separate user folder, so I change my username to done, which will only let me access the folder full of missions that are complete. I load the desert island and then I have my missions there. The first one is mission template 1, AWM pilots out. When you load that, you get an Airwolf on the map and 2 pilots. The command's already in place to set the face. The unit's already got a name so that you can run commands on it. And then this one is Santini. Again, it's been named and it's already got the face set. Airwolf is placed on the map as an empty object, which you have to place a unit first that's playable, and then you can place an empty object. This one is actually named Airwolf. In this box here you can put the no AI equals true, which can stop a lot of issues. That's in the readme file. You basically preview and you're outside Airwolf when the game loads. And there's Santini, who will probably run away because he grouped to me, so he will basically do that. Back in the editor, if you double click on the pilots and go to units, you can change it to the one with the helmet, which is pretty self-explanatory. That's mission template 1. Mission template 2 is, it looks a similar template, but it's not. You've got both your units as normal and you've got Airwolf on the map. Now Airwolf, as you can see, is an empty object, but when you load the game you're already inside. Now this is a technique using the move in command and the assign as command. So in the INT now you've got the set face command and this move in driver Airwolf, and it knows what Airwolf is because I've named it Airwolf. And Santini's is this moving gunner Airwolf. Now the reason for this is mission template 2, is you can run commands on Hawk and you can run commands on Santini and you can run commands on Airwolf, whereas if you just place Airwolf on the map you can only run commands on Airwolf. So when it comes to scripting your missions, ideally you need the individual units with their own name so you can fire commands at them, and you can also target them individually. You can make them watch other targets individually, so you end up with 3 units instead of 1, which, to be quite honest, it should be the way to do it. In mission template 3 you've got your bad guy, which is one of the Libyan helicopters from the AWM mod, and then as usual you've got your 2 pilots and your Airwolf there, and there's a trigger in the middle which basically sets the bad guy's fuel on activation by west to 100. Now at the moment the bad guy's fuel is set at 0, so he can't move, so he'll just sit there in the helicopter and he'll wait, and then when you enter the trigger zone, whoop whoop whoop, alarm, whatever you want to put in, you can if you want. You know, on the trigger box you can click the effects and then it's got music, it's got camera effects, it's got sound effects, it's got voices. You can position where the camera's going to be. You can add text that will come across the screen. You can add other resources such as splash screens and whatnot. Some add-ons have them in, some don't. I wouldn't recommend using them, otherwise you're going to have to make people require certain add-ons that aren't that great. But this one is basically what we're doing. And you'll notice they're already in the air. You know about the enemy chopper. There he is over there. And if I fly towards him, now his engine's on because he's been given fuel. And he'll come after me. So, that was mission 10.3. Mission 10.4 is a similar thing, only it's got Airwolf in it this time. He's automatically a bad guy, so he's going to want to come after me anyway. And then we've got a bit more complicated one, but it's a handy idea to include into your missions. Remember, I've been trying to explain to people that you can add as many functions to the helicopter as you want to add, but the issue is the game starts to run slower and slower and slower. I mean, it's alright having screens pop up in Dom's compartment when an enemy's in range, but if nobody's sitting there, if you're the pilot, these are animations you're running on something that you can't even look at. Everything you want to do with the FLASHPOINT Airwolf mod, it's already done and ready to use as it is, and you're supposed to build your missions around that. Remember, at some point you should end up with a campaign where you've got a mission with objectives, and when it's complete the game saves. Then you've got a second mission with more objectives. By the time you get to the third mission, your game's almost dead, which is where I'll be also showing people how to create a unit in real time, as well as give it a name so you can run commands on it. Which means, I don't know, you get out the Jeep and you walk towards a shop, and when you get it within a certain range of the shop, a trigger spawns a shopkeeper behind the counter. When you leave the shop and exit the trigger, it deletes the shopkeeper. It keeps the game tidy, clean and running faster. Okay, the mid-air refuel 10.5 is a radio trigger, and it's radio alpha, and it runs a script in the mission folder called mid-air refuel. And what you basically do is, if you're using the turbos, see the fuel in the top right hand corner is basically gone. So you can't use the turbos, you can't use just the reverse, see that, not enough fuel. Now normally you use your backspace key, which brings in this box in the corner, and then you have naught full apply, which is not on the number pad, it's on the top row. And then you press naught again for the radio, and then you press 1 to call alpha. And if you watch the fuel in the corner, coming up on mid-air refuel, pumping fuel, up goes the bar. Refuel complete. Now you can use the turbos again. Now remember, people might say they want this in the add-on, but at the end of the day, this is a cheat. Do you know what I mean? It's like at some stage, hopefully I'll get it to spawn an aeroplane, and it will lock on and come up behind it, and you can refuel. But the thing is, this is a battle zone. You're not supposed to cheat. If you're in the middle of a compound and you're firing rockets and you're turboing out and you're spinning around and you're turboing back in, there's no time to mid-air refuel. You want realistic missions. These are realistic concepts, not cheats. These are things that should be in the mission. They shouldn't be an automatic thing within the add-on. So that's 5 mission templates for you to play around with, see what you can build. And what I would recommend is that people start releasing missions uploading stuff for other people, working on faces, chip in, like let's get some stuff actually going, instead of basically at the moment I'm doing everything and most of the stuff I'm doing is so mediocre and beneath me. I mean, I'm not a genius, but I'm clearly doing a lot more with FLASHPOINT than other people that are using it, but yet no one can be bothered even making some faces for the game, and yet I've thrown up complete instructions on how you do it. You want me to waste a couple of hours making faces? I will, but that's a couple of hours that could have been spent doing a lot better stuff. One really important thing to note about when you're placing units outside of a vehicle, you have to put them within a certain radius of the vehicle. If you put Airwolf on one side of the island and stick your pilots on the other side of the island, even though you've assigned them as the pilot and you've assigned them as the gunner and you've moved them into Airwolf, they don't hook each other. So when you put Airwolf down, try and put the pilots as pretty much close to the helicopter as you can in the editor, so that the AI hooks into each other. It's a weird issue, but just try and keep them together. You can download the missions from the video description below, or if you're watching it on some other stupid website, it could be at the side or it could be above. Don't forget to subscribe, click like, and tell your mates about it. Try and get involved, visit the Facebook pages and the groups, click like on them, join them or whatever, and check back because there'll probably be more.